morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. My name is Wang, Senior Program Specialist at UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning and a Project Lead on Lifelong Learning for Older Adults. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the launch of our new report, Implementing Effective Reskilling and Upskilling Learning Programs for Older Adults. We are joined today by colleagues, researchers, practitioners, and policymakers from across the world. And that breadth of perspective is exactly what a topic like this demands. Population aging is a global phenomenon, and the question it raises about learning, work, and dignity in later life concern all of us. This report is a fruit of a close collaboration between UIL and the Shanghai Open University SOU. I would like to warmly thank our SOU colleagues for their partnership and support throughout this project. I would also like to extend our sincere thanks to our project advisors, with particularly thanks to Professor Maria Slove and Professor Brian Finderson for their invaluable guidance throughout the process. We also want to express our sincere thanks to the author teams, including Professor Carol Ma and colleagues, authors of the Singapore case, Professor Yukiko Sawano and Dr. Yuka Ibiki, authors of the Japan case, Dr. Georgios Pavlidis, author of the Sweden case, Dr. Ruben Ortiz, author of the United States case, and Professor Olivia Hernández-Pozas and Professor Maria Garcia Chitiva, authors of the Colombian case, as well as Dr. Patricia McMullin, who led the cross-case synthesis and recommendations, and many others, for their kind contribution to this support, without whom the publication will not be possible. Over the next hour, you will hear the key findings from our research, reflections from colleagues who conducted case studies, and an open discussion with our panel. I encourage all participants to submit your questions at any time through the Q&A bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. UIL team and the author team will do our best to address them there during the webinar. I'm now very pleased to hand over to my colleague, Mr. Raul Valdez-Cauteras, Senior Program Coordinator at UIL, for the opening remarks. Dear Raul, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, distinguished colleagues, partners, friends. It is a great pleasure to welcome you today to the launch of this important report. Today's discussion speaks not only to research and policy communities, but also to a broader global reality, how we support people to continue learning, engage in society, and thrive throughout longer lives. Population aging is one of the most significant demographic transformations in our time. It reflects important progress. People are living longer and healthier lives. But at the same time, it presents complex challenges. By 2050, the proportion of the global population aged 60 and above is expected to reach 22%, with the majority living in low and middle-income countries. This calls for inclusive, forward-looking, and well-coordinated policy responses. It's in this context that lifelong learning is not optional. It is essential. Opportunities for reskilling and upskilling enable older adults to remain active in labor markets, adapt to changing skills demands, and pursue entrepreneurship. Equally importantly, learning supports social participation, well-being, and personal fulfillment in ways that reflect the diverse aspiration of older learners. At the same time, we must recognize that access to such opportunities remains uneven. Many older adults continue to face financial, digital, and institutional barriers. Too often, programs are not sufficiently flexible, do not build on prior experience, or do not fully respond to the diverse motivations of learners. Addressing these gaps requires stronger collaboration among policymakers, educators, employers, and communities. This report forms part of a broader joint initiative between the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning and Shanghai Open University on the benefits of lifelong learning for older adults. This is just one more outcome of the work of cooperation we have been having. Since 2023, this collaboration has generated 3 complementary studies on reskilling and upskilling, intergenerational learning, and digital learning for older adults. The first 2 reports have already been released, and the report we're launching today represents the 3rd and final publication in this series. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to President Wei Jia and the entire team at Shanghai Open University for the strong partnership and continued engagement. The report presents 5 country cases from Singapore, Japan, Sweden, the United States of America, and Colombia, illustrating a wide range of policy approaches and program models. These include public financing mechanisms, workplace learning initiatives, higher education programs, as well as community-based and entrepreneurial pathways. While diverse in context, they reflect a shared commitment to expanding opportunities for older adults to continue learning and pursue pathways that are meaningful to them. Over the next hour, we look forward to hearing from the author team and country experts and to engaging in a rich exchange of perspectives. We hope that the insights presented in this report will inform your work and contribute to ongoing dialogue in your respective contexts. We encourage you to actively participate in the discussion as collective reflection and shared learning that are essential to advancing this agenda. It is now my pleasure to invite President Wei Jia of Shanghai Open University to take the floor. His institution vision and leadership have been instrumental in making this collaboration possible. Thank you. The floor is yours, President Jia.
Thank you, Raul. President Jia, please take the floor. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It is my great honor to join our partners from the UNESCO Institute for Life Learning in today's webinar. For the launch of the joint research report implementing effective reskilling and upskilling learning programs for the older adults. On behalf of Shanghai Open University, I would like to extend my warmest congratulations on this important achievement. I also wish to express my sincere gratitude to the UIL for our strong partnership and to the experts worldwide who have contributed to this work. As the world faces increasing challenges of population aging, enabling older adults to reskill, upskill, and participate fully in the digital era has become a shared mission for the international community. As a major city with a large aging population in China, Shanghai has made lifelong learning for older elders a strategic priority. Recent policies introduced by Shanghai Civil Affairs Bureau and other 28 municipal departments provide strong support for re-employment, skill development, and older adult rights, giving clear direction for our efforts. For a long time, Shanghai Open University has been deeply committed to the senior education. Shanghai University, for the senior affiliate to Shanghai Open University, has provided programs such as Smart Living in Silver Age and courses on digital life and smart healthcare. Using a blended online-offline learning model, tens of thousands of older adults have benefited, becoming more confident and capable in the digital era. Meanwhile, with the support of the Shanghai Monitoring Center for Lifelong Learning Needs and Skills at SOU, we also conduct surveys to understand older adults' learning needs. Extensive analysis help us identify skill gaps and improve curricula. Data shows steady progress now. In 2025, Shanghai's older population scored 71.15 in digital learning competency, up 9.71 points from 2023. Yet, challenges still remain to the older learners, particularly age-related learning difficulties, which highlight the importance of support from both family and society. Building on this experience, Shanghai Open University and the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning carried out joint research on reskilling and upskilling. We reviewed international practice, examined the key cases, and proposed practical solutions to promote skill development, digital inclusion, and social participation. This report is a milestone of our cooperation and a valuable contribution to global senior education. Looking ahead, Shanghai Open University will continue to deep cooperation with UIL. We will integrate global best practice with local experience, enrich curricula to highlight competencies, employment, entrepreneurship, and digital adaptation, and refine blended learning models. We will also expand partnerships with enterprises, communities, and organizations to create a platform for training, practice, employment, and volunteer service. In this way, older learners can apply their knowledge, achieve meaningful outcomes, and connect learning directly with life opportunities. We are willing to share our experience and learn from partners worldwide, jointly advancing high-quality reskilling and upskilling for older adults. Let lifelong learning become a strong pillar that helps older adults cross digital divide, pursue new opportunities, engage in society, and live with dignity and happiness. I hope the Silver Age truly become a golden age, where everyone can learn, contribute, and succeed. Finally, I wish this webinar every success. Thank you.
Thank you so much, President Jia. Thank you for this very inspiring speech. Very impressed by your strong leadership in advancing lifelong learning for older adults in Shanghai. And also, thank you once more for confirming your commitment in international cooperation for further advancing this field of work in the international community. Thank you so much once more. So I think the speech by Raul and President Jia have really reminded us this project reflects a shared commitment to building learning societies that are leaving no one behind, regardless of age. Thank you once again. Ladies and gentlemen and colleagues, We can now move into the heart of today's webinar, the key findings and recommendations from the report. I would like to introduce my colleague, Ms. Sruthi Ranjani Vinjamuri, who worked closely with me to organize and coordinate this publication of the report. And Sruthi will walk us through the methodology, key findings, and recommendations of this report. Sruthi, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mo, for the introduction. And welcome, everyone. I'm very glad to have this opportunity to share something of the behind the scenes of this publication that we're launching today. So let me begin with a fact that is perhaps common knowledge by now. Demographically, we are at a turning point. According to the WHO, virtually every country is experiencing a growth in both the size and proportion of older adults in the population. This shift presents distinct challenges, from well-documented macroeconomic concerns such as labor shortages and pressures on pension systems, to the equally important challenge of preserving the social and emotional well-being of older people. Can lifelong learning be a part of the answer to these challenges? This publication takes a step towards answering exactly that question. It is the result of a broader research project, as Rahul and Professor President Vijaya have mentioned. It was begun in 2023 in cooperation with Shanghai Open University under the overarching theme of the benefits of lifelong learning for older adults. The project comprised 3 studies. The first, titled Designing and Supporting Intergenerational Learning Strategies and Activities for Older Adults. The second, titled Bridging the Great Digital Divide by Enhancing ICT Learning Opportunities for Older Adults. The final one, Implementing Effective Reskilling and Upskilling Learning Programs for older adults. The first 2, which involved case studies from 9 different countries.
Sruthi, we cannot hear you anymore.
The links. Today
You're
marks
back You're back now. We lost you for 5 seconds. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes. All
Okay,
good right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just saying that the first 2 case studies, which involved the first 2 publications, which involved case studies from 9 different countries, they're available on UNESCO's open access database, UNESCO, and we'll also share the links to them in the chat box. Today marks the launch of the final publication, third and final publication in this series, Implementing Effective Reskilling and Upskilling Learning Programs for Older Adults. So the main aim of this study was to explore how institutions across different countries are ensuring that older adults engage in lifelong learning to remain active, skilled, and engaged in the labor market and in society more broadly. We focused on 2 fundamental questions. First, how do national and local policies and strategies facilitate upskilling and reskilling programs for older adults? And second, what are the critical factors that help make these initiatives work in practice for older adults? More specifically, how can programs be tailored to the unique needs of older adults? And how can they be structured to support the employability and employment prospects of older adults? To answer these questions, we adopted a case study methodology, selecting 5 institutions from across the world in Japan, Colombia, the United States of America, Sweden, and Singapore. And these cases represent a range of different institutional types: universities, workforce training centers, non-formal learning organizations, and so on. Case selection was guided by expert recommendations, and rather than to seek to generalize the results of the case study, the aim was really to generate context-specific insights into lifelong learning practices for older adults. The study is grounded in educational gerontology, which is an interdisciplinary field that examines how aging and learning intersect, and it draws on a variety of fields, including sociology and psychology, to understand and support the needs and motivations of older learners. And in terms of data collection, we began by sending a short questionnaire to these institutions that were selected to understand their profiles and contexts. And thanks to the strong support of our other teams, we then gathered a wide range of primary data through interviews We also developed the interview guidelines for these interviews. And these interviews were done with policymakers, program managers, institution leaders, as well as older learners who were part of these programs themselves. We also looked at secondary data, such as policy documents, demographic data, institutional reports, evaluations, and so on. On your screen right now, you can see a snapshot of the 5 case study sites, as well as their authors, many of whom we have the pleasure of hosting here today as speakers in this webinar. You can also note the diversity of institutional types. The first 3 cases, the United States of America, Singapore, and Sweden, they operate in what we call non-formal settings. The case studies based in Japan and Colombia are based within universities. I now take this opportunity to warmly invite 2 of our case study authors to share their reflections on the cases that they have authored. First, we have Olivia Hernández-Pozas, Associate Professor at the Institute for the Future of Education at Tecnológico de Monterrey, Mexico. She is one of the authors of the interesting case study on the senior university in Bogota, Colombia. And second, we will have Dr. Robin Ortiz, Director of Business Development at the Felton Institute in San Francisco. This is an NGO that offers apprenticeship opportunities for low-income older adults in California. So I'd first like to invite Olivia. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Let me start sharing my presentation. Here we go. Basically, what I would like to start discussing is how Latin America has seen a remarkable growth in the number of older adults age 60 years old and older. Basically, in the particular case of Latin America, by 2050, it is expected that older adults in the region will account for 25%. In Colombia, in particularly, older adults represented 13.5% in 2021. But by 2031, Colombia is expected to reach a balance between individuals younger than 15 years old and those older than 60, losing in this way their demographic bonus. Basically, in Colombia, public policy is focusing on economic security, employment, digital literacy, but also on entrepreneurship education. And such is the case that we documented in Universidad del Rosario, which is in Bogota, Colombia. And the name of their specialized area is Senior University. This Senior University is focusing on developing entrepreneurial competencies, drawing on their experience of many years working, teaching, and collaborating with older adults. They are targeting adults 55 years old and older. And this is very important in Colombia because social security coverage in Colombia remains low and insufficient. There is recognized need to support older Colombian adults. It is interesting to notice that women in Colombia retire at 57 years old and men at 62. In spite of this, basically, Social Security coverage remains low. Therefore, it is very important to pay attention to this demographic change and provide the means for older adults to keep upskilled and reskilled. The slogan of Senior University is the following: it is time to go back to university, and there's more to experience and more to discover. This Senior University, the main partnerships are internal and external. Internal, because there is an institute for aging and longevity, which is focusing on public policy and research. There's also an observatory of entrepreneurship and employability. Of course, also the Faculty of Entrepreneurship in the Business School and the Lifelong Learning Office of the university. As an external partner, they have Porvenir, which is a private Colombian fund which is focusing on pensions and unemployment. The model of senior university is based on 5 different aspects. First and foremost, the lifelong learning, which is the topic of today's webinars. And this is educational program for upskilling and reskilling lifelong learning. Along with this one, senior university also has another area which is called productivity in the silver age, professional services and volunteer. And these are spaces for incubation and acceleration of startups and professional services and volunteering activities. There's also another area called LIVE, the UR for University of the Rosario, and they are activities for older adults in which they can enrich their academic, social, and cultural life with varied activities. Then there is a Center for Studies and the Observatory, which is focusing on research, and of course, another area for consultancy and ad hoc projects. In the lifelong learning area, upskilling and reskilling older adults, there are different aspects they are training them for. You have financial planning and retirement, legal aspects of investment and taxes, and there are others such as senior tech, which is digital literacy, also vital leaders, which is focusing on well-being of older adults. You have the storytelling and social media, which is focusing on marketing the older adults for employability and, of course, for their startups. And then there are 2 other areas, Silver Factory and Silver Sky. One is for ideation, launching, and management of the startups. And the other one is for technological support, networking, and events and fairs for the startups that they are creating in this initiative. And of course, then services and consultancy, where they are connecting older adults and preparing them to sell their professional services. And then the volunteering area. Finally, I would like to remark the impact of this initiative, which is senior university from the Universidad del Rosario, has benefited more than 9,000 older adults, trained more than 600 seniors, developed more than 200 startups, complete 4 research projects, and of course, one of the most important achievements is that older adults overcome their self-imposed barriers and those imposed by society, and they demonstrate that they can make a significant difference for themselves and for society, for others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Olivia. It's wonderful to see an initiative that supports entrepreneurship as much as employment among older adults. Now over to Robin, who will take us through the case of the Felton Institute. Robin?
Thank you. I will share my screen. Oops. Oh, okay, there we go. Too fast. And can you see that, Sruthi, in the proper view?
Could you please present, Robin?
Sure, we're doing that. That's happening again. We had this issue before. Let me try it again.
Play from current slide, maybe.
Let's see. Oops, sorry. Whoops. How about now?
That's perfect.
Oops.
Yeah.
Good? Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So I am happy to be here I'm Dr. Robin Ortiz, happy to be here joining you from the Felton Institute. We are a behavioral health provider in the San Francisco Bay Area and beyond in California. So we are one of the longest running nonprofits and social services providers in the United States, in the Bay Area. We're 135 years old, give or take, which is probably very young compared to other folks worldwide. But for the US, we have been around for a while and operating. And we're somewhat unusual in the United States as a provider in that we serve all age groups from children birth to 5 all the way through to older adults. And we meet a wide variety of human service needs within our programs. And we also have our training, research, and evaluation division, which I'm bringing you this study from. And so we operate somewhat as a learning institution in that part of the agency. So within Felton, the senior division is the organizational home for the program at the center of our case study, the Senior Community Service Employment Program, which I will pronounce as CSEP. So this division provides supports and services specifically for those who are 55 and older. And we create an ideal environment that in this way for meeting the unique and often complex needs of older adults. But within the CSEP program, we have a focus on skill building and employment. So our older adults in this program are they're benefiting from our gerontology experience, our experience working with the really complex, multifaceted needs of older adults. And we also are using a peer-based approach for them, which means that we have older adults who are being trained and who are supporting other older adults. It kind of uniquely places them to understand some of the social emotional challenges and fears of going back into the workplace or reskilling and upskilling. And it also provides a sense of empathy. So they are not necessarily trained educators, our peers, but they have the benefit of being adult lifelong learners themselves. And we are kind of tapping into the peer support movement in the United States and globally that says that shows us through research that folks from a similar position helping each other is often quite powerful. And so we are in this way, we are doing the reskilling and upskilling from a peer-based perspective. We use a comprehensive assessment to understand our participants and really figure out what their needs are, not just their skill development needs, although those are important, things like digital literacy, but also the skills and the concerns about readiness for employment. We can have folks who are very highly skilled, but may feel very concerned about going back into employment, or folks who have really had not a very strong work history in their past, and therefore it's really important to meet them where they are in terms of their readiness for employment. And the 2-year or more nature of the CSEP model really allows for us to meet folks where they are and then support them to gain the readiness that they need, whether that's both skills and or social emotional development readiness to be back into the workplace. And we also know sometimes that for folks, one of the major social emotional barriers to reskilling and upskilling can be concerns about benefits, the financial impact. So folks may be receiving entitlements that they are allowed to have as older adults, but gaining employment, paid employment, can actually sometimes jeopardize those benefits, but in ways that don't allow them to be fully self-sufficient. And so the CSEP model provides subsidized training so that during their training and learning time, they are able to receive a stipend that does not impact. We're very careful about not impacting existing benefits. And this can really help with the concern about not being able to be fully self-sufficient while doing the learning. And this is a really powerful, important part of the CSEP model. And finally, one of the things that we rely on very heavily, and that's really an integral part of the model, is our employer network. And so we are working with both directors and managers of local CBOs, NGOs, but also the business community. And by developing this ongoing relationship with small business owners in particular, they learn to trust our matching process, that we have these assessments and that we are able to provide an older worker for them who is a great fit for their business or for their department if they are a CBO or a governmental organization. And in this way, we have ongoing relationships that have spanned many years with employers, which creates a an important sense of trust and cohesion in the community. And we hear from many small business owners that for them to employ an older adult with a good match that we help them create really lets them give back to their community in a way beyond just serving as a for-profit business. And so that's a really exciting way for community members to feel connected to each other. And then, of course, those businesses get to experience the commitment and the enthusiasm that older adults can bring to the community firsthand as employees. And then, as for our older adults, what they always remind us that they are not just getting work, they're not just getting pay, but also they are sometimes even more importantly having the opportunity to stay connected to the world, to be involved in their community, and to as we live longer, they are still able to thrive and be connected through their employment. And I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's clear that partnerships, whether with other NGOs, other alumni, other employers, are what allow an institution like this to reach more and more learners every year. I'll just briefly get back to the 5 case studies at large. So having now heard from the two of our case studies in some depth, I'd like to draw your attention to some of the key takeaways from across all the 5 cases that we put together. First, policy-driven support is a critical enabler of success. National strategies must acknowledge that not all older adults can or wish to continue working, especially those with physically demanding jobs or limited resources. Reskilling can help, but it cannot replace adequate welfare support without risking inequality. So national policies should be able to address that. Local policies, meanwhile, can respond more flexibly to the specific needs of communities. Secondly, leveraging existing university resources. Particularly in the university context, making use of existing staff, students, and curricula is a pragmatic way to extend learning opportunities to older adults. We saw in the Japanese and Colombian case studies, both in Rikkyo Second Stage College in Japan and in the Senior University in Bogota, Colombia, that they draw on existing human and institutional resources, research units, undergraduate students, colleagues from other departments to serve older learners. And this also creates indirect benefits, such as enabling younger learners to actually be able to learn together with older learners. Thirdly, designing programs that respond to older adults' unique needs. Across all 5 cases, we noted the importance of tailored on-demand support, especially when it comes to digital tools, offering both in-person and online options, allowing participants to pause and resume at meaningful points, and actively encouraging family involvement in learning can also make a significant difference. Fourthly, building strong multi-sectoral partnerships, multi-stakeholder collaboration, as Dr. Ortiz has just mentioned, across academia, industry, public institutions, and civil society. That's key to creating real opportunities for older adults. Alumni networks as well are another powerful way of connecting older adults to opportunities that are suited to their circumstances. Fifth, supporting vulnerable groups proactively. So participation in upskilling programs will remain unequal unless vulnerable subgroups are proactively supported. This can mean even before one is considered an older adult, investing early on in job quality and learning access that can really help. Outreach must also be regularly evaluated, whether online or word of mouth. Marginalized population need to be not only aware of these opportunities, but also genuinely be able to access them. And sixth and finally, thinking beyond employment and employability. Our case studies show that most effective initiatives, they go beyond the notion of employability in a narrow sense. While employment is an important outcome, these programs also respond to broader social needs, personal needs, such as community involvement, greater autonomy in daily life, a sense of purpose and meaning, because lifelong learning it goes beyond just being active and productive. So with that, I hand back to Mo for the discussion session. I'm just displaying the QR codes to the publications in case anyone's interested in viewing them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sruthi, for walking us through the key findings and recommendations. And of course, thanks very much to Olivia and Robin for sharing your reflections from the US and the Colombia case studies. I think your contribution have truly set the stage for rich and meaningful discussion. So colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move into our Q&A and discussion segment. This will be a space for reflection and for our panelists to share practical insights grounded in the report's findings. I will be moderating this session. As a reminder, I would like to encourage all participants to submit your questions at any time through the Zoom Q&A bar. And also, I would like to encourage all the author team, all the colleagues in the author team to respond to the questions there. Let me now introduce our panelists. Joining us today are representatives from the author teams. Carol, who drafted the Singapore case study, Professor Yukiko Sawano, who drafted the Japan case, George, who drafted the Sweden case, Patricia, who was leading the synthesis analysis, the cross case studies, and of course, Robin and Olivia. Welcome to all of you, and thank you all for being here. To guide our conversation, I have prepared a few questions that I will pose to each of you in turn. I invite you to respond briefly, probably around 40 to 50 seconds, so that we can cover all the questions and make sure everyone has a chance to contribute. And also, I invite you feel free to take a moment to introduce yourself before addressing the first question. The first question is actually the core question of our publication. From your experience, what is the single most important factor that makes reskilling and upskilling programs for older adults effective? I think since Robin and Olivia, in your early presentation, you have more or less covered this question. So for this question, I'd like to invite other colleagues to answer. We may follow the order, we're starting with Carol, then Yukiko, then George, then end up with Patricia. So Carol, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mo, for the introductions. My name is Carol, Associate Professor and Head of the Gerontology Program from Singapore University of Social Sciences. So we are very happy that we can use the National Trade Union Congress as a case study to share with you about what I see the single most important factors. So what I see the most important is the alignment between the training and real workplace needs. So it's actually quite echo to what Robin mentioned about the comprehensive needs assessment. So actually our case study also repeatedly showed that the program are most effective when training is co-designed by the employers, unions, and also workers. And it is role relevant and practical. And then learner can apply skills directly to their job. And we also find out that older adults themselves, they emphasize a lot on the hands-on job relevance training because they see this actually can help them to build confidence and reinforce learning. So what we see the most important is when we actually make the training more meaningful, immediately useful, and grounded in the real work context, that's the most important.
Thank you so much, Carol, for those insights. Over to you, Yukiko.
Hello, my name is Yukiko Sawano. I am a professor of comparative education and lifelong learning at the University of Sacred Heart, Tokyo. From our case study, Japan is the super aging society, as you may know, and it is entering the era of 100-year era, it is said. So the older generation's age span is getting very long, and we have more problem of loneliness and such social and emotional fear and so on, or the problem of dementia. And so from this background, what I think most important is how to nurture or harness the curiosity of older learners, as it is connected to the willingness to always update yourself. And also it is important for their readiness for unlearning, which are keys to be better person, to be able to contribute to our society. And I think it is the most important condition to become a lifelong learner for people of all ages. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sawano. George, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Georgios Pavlidis, and I'm associate professor in sociology here at Cal State University. I had to think hard for this question more. I found it really hard to answer. And my answer probably is that there isn't a single most important factor. I think we should avoid compartmentalizing that there is like one solution for this very complex issue. And what it means to learn and to reskill and upskill, and what it means to be an older person, an older learner, and an older worker is changing so much. So I would say the single most important factor would be not to think about one dimension of reskilling and upskilling older workers, but many conditions should be satisfied at once for this to happen effectively.
Thank you so much, George, for putting this question in a wider context. And now I'd like to give the floor to Patricia. I wonder your view as author of the cross-case study analysis.
Hi, excuse me. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak. I'm delighted to have been a part of this program. I am an academy researcher at the University of Turku on the Invest flagship program, which is interested in looking at how to sustain the welfare state. So this is very timely and also in the face of demographic aging. So I agree with George in many ways that this I think was one of the most difficult questions. I found it difficult to limit it to one thing, but across the case studies, I think emphasis is placed very much on the need for tailored support for older adults, as well as associated benefits such as a sense of community, peer support, and an integrated context with participation as mentors and contributing to a team. I think one important factor that I feel I need to mention as well is that it's important that links to employment and financial incentives for investing in older workers are considered when policy works as a critical enabler of the supports that are very diverse across the institutions.
Thank you so much, Patricia. Of course, this is not an easy question, not a simple question. We need to, as I fully echo what you and George said, we need to put it into the context, the wider context. But however, I think all your answers have really addressed some common threads, this value of tailored support, multi-stakeholder partnership, and this systematic support, etc., etc. So these are very much highlighted in our publication. Now let's go into the second question. So build on these insights about the effectiveness. My second question focuses on motivation. What strategies have been proven as the most effective in encouraging older adults to participate in reskilling or upskilling learning opportunities? So maybe for this question, we can involve all the authors. We can start from Olivia, then Robin, and then Carol, Yukiko, George, and Patricia. Thank you. Olivia, please take the floor.
Well, I would say that we have to fit the particular population that we are targeting, because building on the multi-factor and being adequate for the particular context, motivation will also change. So we need to understand the population, what they are accustomed, what are their problems and expectations, and then fit that particular group to keep them motivated. In the particular case of Colombian older adults, we have to highlight the importance of the economic support, but also the restrictions, the economic restrictions of the region. So that's the reason, because entrepreneurship was one of the differences or the original approaches we wanted to highlight.
Thank you, Olivia, for those insights. Now over to Robin.
Hi there. I will say that tapping into motivation, we often focus on the values of the individual. What are they looking for? What are they striving for in that moment? What are they concerned about? And we use a motivational interviewing approach to have these engaging conversations, conversations about change. And this way we can discuss the ambivalence that comes, right? The social emotional ambivalence that comes and the scariness of change. We often want change and at the same time don't want it as well. And so it's really important for our mentors, our peers, to discuss with each other what may be holding someone back, but also what they are moving towards. And that's more of a therapeutic approach than maybe other places use.
Thank you, Robin. Very inspiring. Over to Carol now.
Yeah, I think the values of individual is very important. Yeah, other than that, I think the strong employer support and inclusive culture is also very important because when companies they can encourage learning and provide equal opportunities, then older workers they are more willing to step out of their comfort zone. Yeah, and then other than that, what actually we interviewed the older adults, they also mentioned about that flexible learning arrangements are very important because sometimes they will be very busy. Yeah, whether there are any flexible time or micro learning or on the job training that can help them overcome the time constraint. Yeah, and I think this very important that how we can actually create an environment for the worker that can balance work, health, or even caregiving responsibility. So these are all the values and motivation factor behind. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol. Over to you, Yukiko.
Yes, in the case of Japan, from the interview, I found out that accessibility for intergenerational quality learning opportunities where participants can learn from each other is quite important. But also the age span of older learners is, as I said before, it's widening. So the peer learners group can also learn from each other by themselves. And the keyword maybe for the atmosphere should be convivial atmosphere or conviviality. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, George.
Yes, I will agree with Carol. I think the one thing that I see not lacking is the motivation to reskill and upskill in our 50s, in our 60s. I think that the most important thing is to provide the conditions and the opportunities so that we can study, reskill and upskill in those ages. And in the case of Sweden, where education is provided for free for students of all ages, what has been an effective strategy is to provide the financial support for studies for 1 or 2 years, even for workers that are in their 60s. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Very inspiring. Patricia, I wonder whether you have any additional remarks.
Yes, I think that sort of echoing the recommendations, I think that there needs to be kind of investment in these skills from a broad perspective, and that the necessary financial support to individuals and employers is very important. I think the flexibility, so the need for adult, the diverse needs of adult work learners needs to be recognized, and then this will allow maybe for older adults to who are traditionally kind of maybe not in the labor market to lower the barriers to accessing these opportunities, like grants and incentives that are supporting them financially to return to education.
Thanks to our colleagues. I will not make any further comments for the benefits of time. Let's go straight to the third question. So finally, looking ahead, we would like to hear your thoughts on the future. What is one key action that government or learning providers should prioritize to expand and sustain reskilling and upskilling opportunities for older adults? Again, we can listen to from all the authors. We can follow the same order. We start with Olivia.
Yeah, and one thing what I would say is collaboration. There's no way for one particular institute or university to do it all. So collaboration among many different initiatives would be great.
Thank you. Over to you, Robin.
Yes. I would have to just echo our colleagues who previously spoke. In the U.S. in particular, stipends and subsidies are essential. Taking the stress off of the learner, so of supporting themselves so that they can have that mental energy to engage in the learning is really essential.
Thank you. Carol, please go ahead.
I totally agree about the collaborations, especially the tripartite collaborations to co-design relevant training ecosystem. And if you look at the Singapore case study, right, and we actually have a few factors for the key success. One is the government funding and policy support. Another one is employment commitment and workplace integrations. And third one is involve the worker to co-design the training. So what we need to think of the future is lying in the co-created ecosystem-based learning model that continue to adapt to the labor market's needs.
Thank you, Carol. And Yukiko, please take the floor.
Yeah. In order to open existing resources to older people like pensioners and support financially, I think the most important thing is multi-stakeholder support or partnership between education provider and welfare service, and also the support for employment and entrepreneurship, including those for social business. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those insights. Over to you, George.
Yeah, for the Swedish case, I would say it is attention. I'm negatively surprised or how little we know about this group of learners, students and workers in Sweden, and how they don't have a voice both in the social dialogue, but also in research evidence and actions that actually pay attention to their needs and the benefits of studying, reskilling and upskilling in older age.
Thank you so much. And now, Patricia, please take the floor.
So I think that one key action governments or learning providers should prioritize is, of course, early and sustained financial support for both individuals and employers, so that it can reach people who are traditionally underrepresented in the labor market, or for example, women who are maybe out of the labor market for a sustained period of time. The diverse needs of older workers must be recognized, because it's important to help people sustain their employment beyond, and also that outreach retention strategies and flexible multi-generational approaches are essential to make lifelong learning more inclusive.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for this very insightful contributions. I saw there's a lot of interest. Also, we saw the posts in the chat bar, and also the number of participants sustain. So it's really, we can really see the big interest in this topic. However, with the time limit, we cannot really continue or address every question colleagues are interested in. So I would like to encourage we continue the discussions exchange. I would like to request my colleague Sruthi also to leave the email address of us, and just for your future interest and also for our future exchange on the topic. So thanks once again to all the panelists and to all the participants for your questions. I think today's, to just try to summarize, I think the discussion highlights both the real achievements and ongoing challenges in building effective reskilling and upskilling opportunities for older adults. We will now move to the closing remark. Please allow me to give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Raul Valdez, for the closing remark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mo. Just would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all speakers, members of the AFER team and participants who have joined us today from across different regions. We saw people from all over the world. Today's discussion has highlighted both the potential and the challenges of advancing lifelong learning for all adults. And the experiences shared showed the meaningful progress that could be possible, while also remaining as the barriers to access, inclusion, and participation remain. Building on these three reports developed through this collaboration on reskilling and upskilling, intergenerational learning, and digital learning for older adults, we have developed a set of self-learning courses aimed to policymakers and practitioners working in the field of lifelong learning for older adults. These courses aim to support the translation of knowledge into practice and will be launched in June 2026, the three of them. Learning in later life is not only about economic participation. It is also about social engagement, well-being, and personal development. And it plays an important role in building inclusive and learning societies. Thank you once again for your participation. The three reports will be shared with you following today's sessions. We will also provide the links that you can see already, the QR codes in the chat, and we look forward to continuing this exchange with you. Wishing you everyone a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you so much, Raul. Thank you to the author team, and thanks to all the participants. Thank you so much. We keep in touch. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.